Before there was an American Sega Saturn, there was a Nipponese Sega Saturn, November of 1994. Sega had almost zero third-party support, so most launch games had to be internally made by Sega while still catering to the popular genres of the time. In Japan's launch titles, they were able to enlist third-party help for a mahjong game and some rolly ball thing, but neither of these would have done well in the United States, a market of gamers hungry for the next best thing. They had fighting and racing covered thanks to arcade ports. Platforming was covered by Clockwork Knight and the team which tried making this thing work out.
I hate that.
Throw in a couple of sports games, and now all we need are a shoot-'em-up and an adventure game. So part of Sega's dev team split into Team Andromeda so they could smash both of those genres into one wholesome 3D world. In the early 1990s, a team of about 15 people, headed by then 23-year-old Yukio Futatsugi, spent about 1 year working on this launch title. Because of the team's background, it was designed like an arcade game, but the team's leaders wanted it to be fully 3D, something new for them. This sort of beautiful-looking post-apocalyptic environment was largely inspired by European sci-fi novels and some old-school Japanese anime. One inspiration came from a French comic book artist known as Mobius. This guy even made the cover art for the Japanese release. It's a little better than the North American cover art. At first, they wanted to name the game something like Armored Dragon, but instead, they wanted a more original name. So they translated it to German.
Panzer Dragoon.
That's right, kids. If you want your game to sound cool, translate it to German.
Wächterhelden. Sega Rallye-Meisterschaft. Kiesstrand Golf Links.
You play as this dude, who abandons his gang of Tauntaun riders for becoming the Chosen One. The 8-minute cinematic cutscene sets up the plot and sends you on a mission atop an armored dragon who knows the way. You have a gun. It can either shoot consecutive shots or lock onto multiple enemies at once to hit them all with lasers. If you've ever played Ray Force / Galactic Attack / Layer Section, it pretty much works like that. Some bosses are more susceptible to bullets, while others are more easy to attack with the lock-on lasers. Since there's no auto-fire, you can only shoot bullets as fast as your thumb can press the button. Fortunately, there's 3 fire buttons, so now you have some options. There's the Novice One-Thumb Wonder, the 2-fingered Carpal Tunnel, the I Can't Move My Dragon Anymore, and, my personal favorite, the f*** it all, I'm using the third-party auto-fire controller. Everything's on rails. As you move your crosshairs, your dragon moves with it. Instead of a plane or ship, this feels like you're pulling the reins of a living thing. The shoulder buttons let you move the camera in a 360 plane of view. There's 6 levels, each ending in a boss fight. The greater your kill ratio, the more credits you earn after bosses. Once you get to the 4th level, difficulty goes boom! You realize dragons were not meant to fly through small tunnels. The fact that everything turned out as well as it did was kinda lucky. Development for Panzer Dragoon was a bit rushed. They started developing the game before the Saturn's hardware was finalized, so they didn't have anything to test the game for the first few months. Seems like it'd be hard to know what the Saturn can handle when the console's not even done. Classic Sega management skills right there. That on top of it being young Futatsugi's first year of full-on game development, he had to keep designs simple, but he said the simple designs kept the initial vision he had for Panzer Dragoon with its minimalist cutscenes and environments. A new language was created for the game, mixing ancient Greek with other Western languages. To make up for the lack of draw distance, the water texture on the ground sort of moves with your dragon and extends into the horizon. This gives a nice illusion of wide open space. The details on the Dragon's 3D model is mind-blowing when compared to the Saturn's other launch games. Look, textures! It's also a very good entrance into the world of 3D games, something still very new at the time. Soundtrack was composed after the rest of the game was complete. Since it's on rails, they wanted to time the music to certain transitional events in the levels to give it a more cinematic feel. This was pulled off really well. It was planned to launch with the Japanese Saturn in November of '94, but it didn't make it till March of '95. It was still made in time for the United States surprise launch.
Optic nerve, this is the brain. What's going on down there?
The eardrum's going off! Go get help!
We're having a breakdown, we're having a breakdown, we're having a breakdown, we're having a breakdown, we're having a breakdown.
Many publications were blown away by the finished product. Some docked it points for not having power-ups and maybe being a bit too simple, but they still liked it. The real question is, what does Sega think? As an old-school shoot-'em-up, Panzer Dragoon can hold its own in today's age of video games. And for the time it was released, it's kind of a mind-blow. For some people, this was their first experience with the fully 3D game. Not a bad start to a new era of gaming. The first Panzer Dragoon may be a bit shorter than I'd like it to be, but it's still very fun. Plus, it looks really pretty. This left behind a legacy of sequels, re-releases, and inspiration for other games. Assholes on the internet like myself continue to give it praise more than 20 years after it came out. It even sparked a holy grail in the RPG genre, a game which costs a life savings to play and something I won't review until about 2 decades from today. I really like the Episode 0 cheat code. It's kind of like a survival mode. So if you ever want to make a really crappy YouTube video of just 8 minutes of straight gameplay with you ranting about some political topic in the gaming world, this would be a good thing to put over it.
Real sports.
Keep it down a little.
Real fast.
Optic nerve here. I am gonna need some help.
Real painful.
Sega
Saturn.
The average driver puts 12 to 13,000 miles a year on a car. At Saturn, we knew this. Where and how, though, is anyone's guess.